Okay, hello everyone. Morning. Let's get started. Okay, so we just want to have like a review on last session's uh discussion. So it's like a core question. By the way, I said I'm going to like record the session, so I'm going to do that. For last session, I recorded it. I went home and I realized that we went through the slides and it completely recorded a black screen. So I didn't post it. That's what was the reason. I will try to make sure that like I'm recording this correctly. I'm very bad at this. So let's just start with like the knowledge check kind of like a review question, and then we are gonna like review this and then go to the practice. Everyone done? Yes. Good. Okay. So this was just like to make sure that like we kind of like touch a few things that we talked about last session in actually code. I'll try to kind of like move on to more in-class like knowledge check, kind of like these quizzes to review things that we talk about like every session. And this should give you a feedback. It's not more for the grade. I think everyone probably like earn the complete grade for the knowledge. That's not for the like the point is not grade here. More like learning them at least like from this and then making sure that like we move forward. Um, so um, okay. So the first question is this. Based on this code, what do you think is going to be like printed as like in the output, like basically as the like the balance amount? What should it be? It should be like is it 5,500 or like 3,500?
Is it just 350?
350, like 3,500, right? Okay, yes, or which one? Yes, right? Great, that is correct, right? Why? Because like you see here, we define this update balance as a void, right? So yes, like we get the amount, we actually pass the amount and balance to the method. But what is the problem? It adds like amount to the balance, but again, balance is in this method is a local variable. Okay, so it doesn't return anything. We define it as a void, so it's not going to return the value. So the balance, which is again in this method, is a local variable. So it's not updated here. That's why when you print out, you will still have the same balance. So you didn't update the balance. Okay. So the idea of local variables is that these variables only exist within that method the same way these variables exist within that method. So if you want to update the value, this method should not be defined as a void. It should be defined to return a value, which will be like replay, like updating the balance using the same variable, right? You're going to change the value of that variable. You have to update the same like variable. Okay, good. Any question? Okay. So this was like I wanted to like give you different like ways that like I've seen like we can like define this method. And also based on what we discussed last session, which was like how do we actually should implement like methods and like processes. You want to say, okay, first you collect the input and then you move to the process part and then output. And then like when you're in the process part of your like application or developing the process, that's when you start thinking about like developing like a method. Um, and the other thing was that the other point I made was that make sure that like you don't get inputs in the method. Make sure that you don't produce outputs in the method because we have input, process, output. Each of them should be separately implemented. Okay. So based on those, is there any one of these? Like, how about the first one? The first one is incorrect because again, it doesn't return the value, right? It updates the balance. First of all, there are two problems with it. It's void. It is not returning the balance value, so it's not going to update the balance. The second thing is, again, we are like getting input in the method. Okay, so this should have been done before we call the method to perform the update balance. How about the second one? Again, similar issues as well as like again, we're like not just like this, but this balance, yes, like we print out the like the balance here, but like when we were working on it, we want to have like we're getting this like part of the program on the main method. That's our core. So it should be returned there and then update like the balance. So it doesn't do that. So this is also incorrect. Again, this is like a little bit getting not getting better because like now you're just getting both of the variables inputs here, which is not like doing anything helpful. The last one, which seems to be like a little bit like basically better because now it is returning the balance, updated balance. But the problem is that we are getting the amount here. this should have been done before you call the method. So that means like the amount should have been one of the parameters of this method. Okay. So input and then process. You should have collect like balance and amount before calling it. That means like balance and amount should be passed to this method. So that means like these are two parameters of this method. And like the input shouldn't be collected in the method. Okay. So none of the above. And how about the last one? Since we already kind of like talk about, I think by now we already know. First of all, so we know that the update balance, the problem is that update balance doesn't return any value. It's void. So balance will be still 3,500. But then in the next one, you see, this is actually the correct like implementation. Before like this is implemented so that like we pass amount as well as balance to the method, we perform the process and return the value and then think about also the output. Okay. So here, like we pass the balance and amount, we updates it, returns the value, and then we replace like update balance in this method. Okay. Set the value to like this variable. And that's the correct way. So I wanted to show you to say, okay, we shouldn't implement both of them, right? So this is not like not correct. We only need one method, and that's the correct method. So this should have been this. But I wanted to show you that, like, okay, if you use one of these, like one of these is not going to change at like the value of balance here. If you wanted to change it, it should return the value and like update it, and then like balance is going to be actually this time 5,500. Okay. So any question? Good. Okay, great. Let's get started on the like class practice. Okay. So what do we have here? You're building like a movie kind of like app system. Some of the things that like data that we are collecting is like title of the movie, director, actor, release year, and budget. So steps. Prompt the user to enter the movie information, show menu options, let the user choose the option. After completing the selected section, they have to ask the user if they wish to continue. If so, again, we are going to show like the options list. And like we have 4 options, like display movie information, update movie director, calculate the profit, and add new actor, like new actor name to the list of the actors. And the assumption is that don't focus on like making sure like the input is correct. Let's say it's like the user provides the correct input. Okay, so let's see. Let's start programming this application. Okay. So I'll give you just like a few minutes to actually like go through it and implement the part. But before that, before going through the program, let's do this again and practice it. You're just going to add comments, okay? You don't need to program anything. You need to add comments. I'm going to start from here to say end of the main method. Okay, this will help me. End of the program class. Okay, and then here. I want to structure my program based on my understanding from the organization. Okay. So what is that? You see, prompt the user to enter the movie information, show menu options, let the user choose. Let the user choose, and after completing each section. Okay. First of all, so I'm gonna say, okay, here we're gonna like declare okay main input variables. Okay. And then, okay, see, I'm just going to copy this part. And then I have the organization, right? I'm just going to add those as the organization. Show menu options. We are going to implement each part under the comments that we've added. Let the user choose the option. So basically get the answer, okay? And then once you have the answer, like based on the the section, based on the answer, okay, implement the not working. Implement the option, select that option, I guess. Select that option. Okay. Is that it? One more thing I can add here, okay? So let the user choose, so it's gonna get it, implement the option. How many options do we have? 5 options, 4 options. Okay, so I already know kind of like, hey, like, let's work on this later, implement the option. Okay, let's say like based on whatever is happening, we are gonna implement the option. And then one thing that it indicated was that ask the user if they wish to continue. Okay. If the answer is no, the program will otherwise display the options. So where do we display the option? We are showing it here, right? Display the option. So basically, if first of all, at some point, you're gonna ask the user if they wish to continue, right? Okay. So which one, which part, how many of these comments will be repeated if the answer is yes? Where do we go back? Where do we go back if the user says hey, you need to implement it? Basically, I wish to continue. Okay. Let the user choose an option, right? So where do we choose the option? Show the menu options, right? So we need to go back here. So if we are going to go back, this is the part, okay? I'm gonna add this here. Let me see if I can separate this. Okay. This part, it starts here, okay? And then this whole thing is going to be repeated, right? We go back to show the options. How do we make sure that we can go back? Basically, we will have a loop, right? We are gonna put this part inside a loop to say, okay, I want this to have frequently happen. So I assume that this part is going to be in a loop. Okay. So I'm just going through the understanding of the program, not programming it. So this tells me this thing, this all these part is going to be inside a loop because that's where if I add the user wish to continue, again, I need to go back here and show the options. With that, now I want to give you time, okay? I start with the each comment. Under each comment, you should be able to add these things and move forward through the application. Okay. 3 minutes and then we can move together. Go step by step. First, the first part, and then show the options, and so on. We want to try to basically try to see in any part we want to we can use methods for implementing it. And one thing we should consider is that up to this point, right? Up to this point, we're still getting some information, inputs, and then kind of if I want to separate them into input, process, output, I would say at least here I have an input. Okay, this is the part about the input, and this is the process. Still we are getting this, and then we move on to the process here. But since we have multiple options here, I'm just gonna move here and then talk about input, process, output later. For now, let's add the the programs under each of these comments. Yes.
How can you declare a list of strings?
Oh, that's a great point. So for the like just it declared as a string. So what we are gonna do, this is like one of like I wanted to do this practice, which is like we are putting just one like adding like how do you add two strings together with a plus, right? So if you want to add more and more, you just like plus it. So just declare like actors as a string. Okay, so the first thing I did, like based on like our understanding, is that there are some of the input information that I'm going to collect, and I don't have any input variable that like actually I know it's valid. So you can see that like all of them haven't been initialized yet. So we need to like prompt the user to enter the movie information. Okay, so for each of them, let's do this. I'll just keep like the messages like if you can like add them just kind of like saving the time. I will add the text later. Um, So you see, I'm not going back and forth between the description because I've already added the comments and they help me to think what I'm doing as I move forward through the program. And like, this is kind of like helping me to kind of like go with the structure. I didn't list all these variables that I'm going to have in this app. I only added the main one. Yes. Oh, thank you. Yes, yes. Okay. 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 So we have this part. How did we identify like these are the ones that are inside the loop? Because it told us to say, okay, after ask the user if they wish to continue. So we have this, right? Ask the like user to wish to continue. If the answer is yes, okay, like if the answer is no, you should leave. Otherwise, display the options and like let the user choose an option again. So I need to go back. I'm not going to go back to 1. I'm going to go back to 2. So all this part is going to be like this, like being repeated if the user wishes to continue, right? That tells me that this part is inside the loop, and that's how I identified that this part inside the loop. So that will help me to I will define a like a while, okay, and then add this here, okay. This part was inside the loop, either this way or like let's like go with this part, okay. So we added this, okay. I'm gonna add just here, so you know, like you see, that's how I identified this part is inside the loop. Okay, so up to this point, I had some inputs, I've collected them. Now show the like menu options. Okay. So in this case, this is a good one that like we like use methods for it, right? So instead of like having developed it here, let me first I will develop it here and then I move it to method to see like how it changes. So the first thing is string a menu, okay, options, and I will put it inside the string and then console that right line menu options. Okay. So like what are the menu options? I'm gonna like copy and paste it from here. Okay. Right, we can do it first. Again. Alright. Okay. So I only copied it from the text of the like the application from here. So this is one of the like good examples that like we should have them in a method. Why? Because these it could change over time. You could have more options. So like I don't want to like have to like go back to my code and like make these changes. So what if instead of having this here, okay, I will have a method, say, okay, I will call this static, okay. Again, now end of the main method, so that's after that I start. I will call this static, and then it will like return this string like the menu options. I will call it like a menu list. Menu option, menu list. Okay. Does it need to have any parameters here? There is no inputs here. We just wanted to like, when we call this, it will like give us the options. So even I'm not going to like basically return, like it's doing one thing. So I'm just gonna like have this return and like copy this part, okay, like the whole string, and move it into the method See? Okay. So this is much organized. Instead of having like a ton of codes, I don't want to have them. I want to put them into clear like method. Say when I called you, like you can return like the menu like list for me. But there is no input. We're not like passing any information. We're just actually getting information. So you can call this like a get method. Okay. So now here, right? In this part, menu options, I can just call like menu options, like menu a list, I think. Okay. Did I type menu list? Okay. And that's it, right? The difference is clear, but like we don't want to have too many lines of code in our main like method. And like now it's more descriptive for us. Okay. I want to also indicate that like in this case, I try to like kind of like do this, but like as much as you get better, you know that like you don't have to actually do this here, like create a variable, store in it, and then pass it to the like console.writeLine. You could have done this other way, which was like instead of this, you could have like put the method inside that. Okay. So if it like you want, like we don't actually need this. I'm just calling this and it will return the string and I will show it. So these are two different ways in this case to write that code, but I will stick to that like version we have. Okay. So, okay, now are we done with that? You see, I'm just going with the comments. Show menu option. I showed the menu option, so I'm done with that comment. I can move on to the next comment. Let the user choose an option. So how do I get like choose the option? Okay, so basically I'm getting the option and convert that to int. So, okay. Let the user choose an option. They will choose an option. They will input like the option. One thing I want to be clear is that you're getting a number, okay? So I know that like you can like stick to it's like one example would be like consider this as a string, but you're getting the number, so define it as a number and check it as a number. Don't describe it as a string because I saw that in the like in the exam, some of you like used a string instead of integer. So we are getting a number, so make sure the option is a number. Okay, so now implement this selected option. How do we implement this selected option? Okay, if a statement and we know that only one of them is correct, right? So we are going to have if and else's. So how do we implement the option if option is 1? Okay, I'm going to add the like braces here. Remember, for if and else if and so on, if only you have one line of a statement, you don't have to add the braces. But if you have more than one line of a statement, then you have to add the brackets. So like braces, brackets. So just to make sure that you don't make a mistake, add that for now, and over time you can like practice better. Okay. Else if option is 2, okay. Else if option is 3, and then else. Okay, we shouldn't try to like perform any of the like options in the menu before we enter the we enter to this part. Okay, so yeah, if there's a calculation or anything, we shouldn't do it here. We will do anything about the options if the option is selected. That's when you need to perform the option. Why I say this, like one of the mistakes I saw in the exam was like, for example, one of the options was like calculating the interest. And I saw that um, examples that like calculated the interest here before entering the like the decision note, and then you showed the result, but that is not correct. You perform the option only if the option is selected. And then you need to completely perform the option. You want to think, if the option is 3, what are the steps that I'm going to take to implement the option? Okay. And again, start with a comment. What is option 1? If the option 1 is selected, display the movie data. Okay, so that's the option 1. What is option 2? Option 2 is update movie director. Okay. As well as I'm going to add this part too. Okay. Okay, option 3. Prompt the user. Oh. So prompt the user to enter the sales amount and then subtract the budget and display the profit. Okay. And then I have this part. And then the last option is add movie actors. Okay, I start with the comments. Now that I have the comments added for each of the options, okay, then I can move on one by one, implementing each option inside its boundary, right? Inside the boundary. The reason that we created these boundaries is that we know this will happen when we're like, if the option is 1, otherwise the option is 2. If we implemented this with multiple ifs, the problem would be that if the option is 1, it will display that, and then again, it will check if the option is 2. It cannot be possible, right? That's why we use alternatives like if, else if here. Okay, so display all movie like data in a clear formatted way. Then again, okay, so if I wanted to like define it here, I would say, okay, so I have an output. I'm gonna like stick to this plan to like not define any variable inside an if. So just like, I'm not going back to like all the way to the top, just the closest place where I'm like have, so I will declare this here. I'm gonna use this output. Okay. So what is that? Display all movie data in a clear formatted way. Let me see if I have an example here. Okay, so I'll just use this. Okay, let's go with title. Okay, title. Um, what is the other ones? Director. Okay. I'm using a slash n to kind of like move to the next line. So I will just enter it here every time I slash n. Director, and then what is the other one? Is the actors. The budget. Okay, So for each option, let me think about input, process, output, and see how it works. Okay. If I want to say input, I said input, okay, process and output. Okay. First of all, about the inputs. In this case, we are not getting new inputs. The inputs have already been collected. So we don't have to like collect any input. So that's it. How about process? Do we have any process? We don't have them. There is no calculation or any process or checking anything. So we move on. Now we have output. So we only have in this case like creating the output and like showing that to the the user. So I created that and then I will say console write line then output. Okay. Okay. Again, this is like a good example, like preparing the output, formatted output. This can change over time. So what I will do, I want to move this into a method. Okay. So how do I need to like create this method? I will like call this here. What is going to the method is going to return, is going to return the formatted output and a string. So the return type is going to be a string, and this is going to be like display, okay, movie. Okay, display movie information. What this method is going to do, the same thing that we are doing here, preparing this output, okay, but in the method. So basically, we are going to just exactly prepare this, but using that method. So I will just like perform this part, okay. I can like copy this part also like just in case, okay. Say string, you see, okay, and then I will return that output. Okay, I want to do this. I want to like prepare it like formatted output in the method. I want to make sure that the program, the main method is kind of like clear and like has less code as possible. So now we can see that like when we are going to call this method, we already have the information. We need to pass that information. So it can like use those information to prepare this message. In that case, it tells us what are the method parameters as well. So the method parameters are title, it is the director, it is the actors. I'm using the same names to kind of like try to like stay consistent through the methods. Okay. Here's here. And the last one is the budget. Okay. So now I can see and I look at the like a method and what this method is doing. It's a display information. It gets like the information about the movie and it prepares like the formatted output that like you want to show about the movie. If you want to change something, if you want to add more information, you just go directly to the method and like make adjustments to that. You don't have to go back to the program itself. Okay. And like we know what are the inputs. Again, like when you use methods, you have already collected the inputs. Okay. So in this case, we have to pass this information. How do we pass them? Using the parameters, and that's how we figure out what are the method parameters. Now, I'll go back here, okay? I don't want to have this like code is written here, okay? I moved it to the method. Now I have a method responsible for like creating that information. And by this time, I've already collected the input. So what I will do, I will pass the information to the method. How do I do that? Just like based on the same order of like method parameters, I will pass the information. Like these variables are local. So we have to pass them because they're local and like only exist here. We initialize them. Now we can pass them to the method and say, okay, title, director, actors, release year, and then budget. Okay. As we move forward, we will try to reduce the lines, like the number of lines, line of code that we have in the main method. Like we try to like make it more like descriptive. Now you see like, okay, this one is display information. This helps me also, then I can get rid of like the comments because it's descriptive enough to know what is happening in option one. Okay. Any questions so far? Yes, no. Okay. Okay. How about the next one? Okay. I want to give you 5 minutes to work on this. Like 2 minutes to work on option two and develop the option two. Okay. Again, let's do with this. Okay. Input, process, output. Okay. Input. Update the movie. What is the input? Okay. So what do we have like to have input here? Prompt the user to enter director name. Okay. And then update the movie director. So that means this is my input. Okay. The input is prompt the user to enter director name and then process. The process is going to be changing like or updating the director's name. Okay. Okay. How do we prompt the user to enter the like director's name? It's very simple. I want to like get an input. I will just declare it here. Need to get like a name. Okay. Yes.
Aren't we updating the old director name?
So we want to get the input, right? The new name, and then like enter like update the name of the director. Oh, I see what you mean. Okay, you don't need to actually do that. Okay, but I see what you mean. So what you're saying is, okay, just what is that? The director. So what you're saying is like directly just like update, right? That also makes sense. Okay, so this is also correct. Just like get the name and update it. I want to go with like kind of like making sure that we get the like this similarly with the like a structure. So I will just declare this name. That is correct. So I want to be clear, but I want to see what is happening. So you're replacing, okay? You're replacing the director's name. Okay. So yes, that is correct. I want to make sure that like you see what is happening is step by step. So like as you practice, you move on, you can quickly program these like over time. In this case, the update the movie director is just meaning that like you set a new name to the director, and that's what you're doing. Just like changing the name of that value. Yes.
But this one wouldn't need a method.
No, just like simply like updating like the like method, like basically the director's name. Okay. Good. Okay. How about option 3? Prompt the user to enter the total like sales amount, subtract the budget, display the profit. Okay, you can simply know that if you want to like separate them based on input. So what do we have on input to enter the sales amount? What do we have for process? Do we have anything for process? Yes, subtract the budget. Okay. And then we have for output. Okay. Display the profit. If the profit is 0, like a display message indicating the name. So based on that, then again, we can move on to like clearly indicate them. Prompt the user to enter the like total sales amount. So I will declare this like sales because I need a value to like indicate the sales. So I declare it there. I'll come back here and say sales is going to be convert to double. So on. Okay. Try to work on it. So we're gonna like let's stop here and continue this next session from here. Okay. All right. Thank you.